Yo, what is up, buddies? Welcome to your next episode of How Creators Make Money. Today, we'll be diving into how venture capital meets creators and how VCs are funding so many creator startups lately, and the trend of more VC money being poured into content creators, being entrepreneurs, as well as dive into how podcasters are making money and the future podcast, Spotify partner program, and more juicy topics like that. How you doing, Justin?
I'm doing good. I'm excited for this. I have not drank as much coffee as you have, but I did have a matcha right before here. So I'm ready to dive into the VC world because I know you're really excited about that.
Yeah, I feel like I grew up around San Francisco. I live in San Francisco. I feel like the vibe here is everybody who wants to build a VC-backed startup is very sexy to get VC funding, but I personally don't think VC funding is for everyone. I feel like it's a tool, but I do notice this new creator fund launched by this venture called Slow Ventures, and I saw they invest in like non-technical founders because they believe in like long-term growth. And they recently launched a new fund called the Creator Fund, where they invest in content creators, and they're basically giving 1 to 3 million in pre-seed and taking 10% of the creator's holding company. And they're focused on like really niche creators. So focus on YouTubers right now who focus on like long form content because I was reading their thesis. They believe that like creators have built-in distribution. They have like a fan, like a cult following sometimes, and users instantly ready for their product. So it's really exciting. What do you think about the VC world, Justin?
I like so when declassified was starting to pop off in like 2020, 2021, I actually had a few like friends that had disposable cash reach out and say and ask if I was raising money. Like this was during the peak when everybody was raising money, like post COVID and stuff like that. I said no. I personally don't like raising money. I don't understand VC. I don't understand raising money, anything like that. So I said no. My whole thing was I became an entrepreneur to not have a boss. And I felt that if I took money from people, that would just mean that I have someone to answer to, essentially. And I would feel stressed out, right? Let's say if someone gave me 50K, 100K, whatever it may be, at a nice evaluation for declassified, that's great. But now I'm like now I have to succeed because I need to pay this person back on their money plus more, right? So
Mhm.
like I never wanted to do it because of the type of company that I was building. I understand why some people do it, but for me, it just wasn't for me.
Mhm. Yeah, it really depends on your goals and lifestyle. Because I feel like especially for young people, especially in San Francisco and, like, tech hubs in the world, it's so easy to, like, "Ooh, VC funding, so sexy," like but the reality is these venture capital, they're, like, playing bets on, like, many companies. They don't really care, as long as, like, they just need one unicorn to, like, make their whole portfolio back. And so they're just throwing bets everywhere and just trying to think of a numbers, game. But I feel like I also was approached by VCs for design ways myself. I thought about it last year. I was trying to build an AI startup, um, as well
Why
as
not?
like
Why not?
it was called Soulful AI, basically career roadmaps for designers, and I worked with a team of three co-founders, product and technical, and me, growth and distribution. And like we were trying to apply to YC and stuff, but after like kind of diving into the world a little bit, VCs expect like 100,000 million times return. And then like I've seen a lot of my founder friends kind of like struggle a lot like mentally because of VC. And like I feel like VC, it's good to receive it if you're trying to like beat the market and like trying to grow a lot to like time something in the market based on your niche. But at least for me, I'm like my goal in life is just to work like 3 or 4 hours a week and like enjoy life, which does not like correlate to VC back startup. So that's why personally I probably if I had the resources and ambition I could, but like I think I rather like enjoy life and not have to have a boss as well and live a very demure mindful life.
Well, yeah, right. Like that's the thing too. Like for me, we're very similar in that way, right? Where I think the term is like building lifestyle businesses, right? Where you prioritize lifestyle over making money, but obviously you still want to make as much money as possible, right? That's the name of the pod, essentially, right? So, like my perspective on it is, you do what's right for you, but you have to make sure that what you want and what is right for you aligns with what that VC wants. Because a lot of times, like, I'm not the person that really wants to work 80, 100 hours a week. That's good for some people, but if, in my opinion, if I wanted that, I would have just went and took the consulting job offer that I had coming out of school, right? And I could have worked that route, made a lot of money that way, but my lifestyle is trash. You know what I mean? And so I prioritize lifestyle more. I'm very interested to see how this whole VC creator economy thing plays out because a lot of the creators that I talk with typically go down one of two routes when in terms of like their mindset and stuff. One is like the lifestyle very similar to yourself and I, or two, they're very creative, which we all know like the running meme with creatives is just the starving creative, right? So they don't really understand the business world of things. Even myself, like even being in the business world, I don't understand a ton about the VC world, how it works, things of that nature, like even how valuations and shares and dilution, like all those words and terms, like I know what I know what the word is, but I don't understand the meaning behind it. And I think what might happen, which I hope doesn't happen, is a lot of these VCs take advantage of these creators who don't have a lawyer behind them, who don't know any business behind or any have any business know-how behind them, and they start to sign some of these deals like, I've seen it happen in the agency world where agencies sign creators to very bad deals, very bad terms, things of that nature, and I would hate to see that same thing happen in the creator world or the VC into creator world where we just run the same sort of cycle that has happened with musicians, with like the whole musician industry is very bad for the actual musician that's signing the deal with that record label or whatever. I hate to see the record label be the VC
Yeah.
of the creator world.
Yeah, I know, it's so sad. Like, I feel like so many people have so much creativity and ambition, and then these companies just sell something to them that it seems so, like, very great at that time, and I also almost fell to it as well. Like, there are some companies who, like, low-key wanted to, like, acquire design buddies for, like, very little money, but then I was just like, "Nah." I'm still figuring out myself because like, I started design buddies when I was, like, 22, 21, 22, and I was, like, just out of college and figuring it out as well, and I'm sure a lot of these creators are probably pretty young and impressionable. It's their first time making it big, and they wanna be proud and go like that as well. Yeah, but I've seen some startups. I was doing some research into this, and there's, like, some famous creator startups that are actually VC backed, and, like, for example, like, Chamberlain Coffee, they raised, like, 7,000,000, and, like, Feastables also raised some VC money, probably because they probably need a lot of capital to, like, manufacturing, distribution, packaging, and all that stuff as well. But these creators like Emma and Jimmy and Mr. Beast have, like, really big followings already, and I feel like that makes sense that VCs want to capitalize on it because all in all, we're in the attention economy. So, the
Yeah.
more
I mean,
eyeballs.
you can also see it from like this the other route where there's companies like Jelly Smack um and things of that nature where the company has raised VC money to then go out and invest in creators too. So there's a lot of things that are happening right now. I'm not sure how it'll all kind of play out. I think I personally wouldn't raise money unless I'm at a substantial level, like a Jimmy, like a Emma. Another one is what's his name? I had to pull up Kevin from Epic Gardening. I think he's raised like 17 million or something like that from the Churning Group, which, if I remember correctly, that's the same company that invested in Barstool. But like, if you look at it from a VC business standpoint, most media company exits are very bad. Like, it's usual like, if you look at, an average tech valuation, right? What is it usually now? It's like, what, 20x, revenue or 25? Which, like, that quickly balloons, right? Where if you have 1,000,000 in revenue, now you're valued at 20,000,000 or 25. For most media companies, when I've talked to people, it's like 2x revenue, maybe, like, if you're really good, maybe like a 5x, where again, those numbers just don't like it doesn't play in your favor once you raise money because you have to get stupid amount of revenue to make that VC happy, right? 4x as much revenue sometimes, right? If not more than that, compared to the tech company to get that same valuation as a tech company would. So I don't know. I hope it doesn't go down the bad route. Like I hope it's not very similar to the D2C or not D2C, what is it called? CPG brand raising money thing that has happened over the past year. And now everything is kind of falling back on the CPG world and it's going much more based off of revenue rather than like what Purple Mattress and Casper Mattress and all those companies were raising on. But we'll see. We'll see. I wish I could tell the future, but I personally just wouldn't do it if it were me.
What happened with the CPG brands? I don't follow that
So
world too.
like I again, I don't follow it completely, but I have a lot of friends that play in that world. Like if you look back when Casper was popping off and all these mattress companies and everything, you had the what's the razor company? Dollar Shave Club, things like that. All of those companies raised a ton of revenue or a ton of money to basically just run the gambit with Facebook ads, right, and grow their brand that way. But that led to the boom of everybody wanting to raise money for their CPG brand, which now because Facebook ads are getting more expensive and the overall CPG brand is a lot more competitive now. Like a lot of those companies haven't done well once they exited into the stock market, right? If you look up Casper, you look up all those brands like that, right? And so that's kind of had it seems like it's had a negative effect long term versus tech has been the opposite, right? Because those valuations make sense. If you're able to get that monopoly or that duopoly in whatever space it may be, Uber, Lyft, things of that nature, the money's going to come in long term, right? But when it comes to CPG stuff, your profit margins are very limited because you have a physical product that you have to buy. It's not like SaaS where it's essentially it can be 99% profit margins because you just make the software once. Yes, you have to pay to update it, yada yada yada. But that profit margin is top tier. You're seeing it now in the CPG space with all the tariffs and everything like that. That can make or break a lot of these CPG brands.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I feel like all the creators, they're a lot of them are actually well, I feel like I'm just curious, based on your experience, like working with a lot of creators, what kind of products do you see them launching? Is it mostly CPG or like software? I've seen a balance of both.
I've seen a lot of CPG. I think you're starting to see the shift right now. I think the one of the best examples is Doug DeMero, who basically built like the eBay of cars. Essentially, like he buys like he has a platform that buys and sells like used cars on it, and especially as like the used car market exploded during COVID. That platform really took off. I believe he sold some of it. I could be wrong. I don't remember. If he did. Let me just look it up. Doug DeMero sells cars and bids. But it was like a tens of million. Oh yeah, $40 million business. It says. Um, no, he got okay. So he got a $37 million infusion from the churning group. So it seems like the churning group is really trying to like take over this large creator economy investing from the VC lens. Again, they hit it big with Barstool, so it seems like they're trying to make that or run that VC funding to the up and coming social
Hmm.
media creators.
Interesting, interesting. I kind of want to zoom into what you mentioned about the agencies taking advantage of creators. I never personally signed with an agency. I've heard that their terms are pretty bad, like they take a huge cut of it. What's been going on with agencies and creators, and how are they being taken advantage of? Like, just a broad generalization.
Well, like I mean, there are good agencies, there are bad agencies. There are also good agents within agencies and bad agents within agencies. So I would say take whatever I say with a little bit of a grain of salt. Um, this is more of anecdotal Like evidence that I've heard from a bunch of creators, but most creators that I talk to don't have a great experience with agencies that they work with. I think, and I'm perfectly okay with, from a declassified lens, giving up 10, 15, 20, 25% of whatever revenue an agency comes in or brings in. The issue is it doesn't seem like a lot of these agencies are actually just bringing in revenue. They're realistically just taking over your inbox and quote unquote negotiating on your behalf on the same deals that you would have gotten regardless, right? So my thing has always been I don't mind signing 20% or giving you 20% of a brand deal if you bring it in. Where my issue comes is let's say for instance, like for this podcast, right? Let's say Spotter came to us and they were like, "Hey guys, we want to give you $10,000 a month for the pod." If you and I just negotiate that ourselves, we get to keep that 10,000 to ourselves, and we'll find a way to reinvest it into the business, right? But let's say we had an agency that we were working with that we were signed to on a exclusive relationship. Even if Spotter came to us, that agency had no relation to them, nothing whatsoever. Spotter comes into our email, they address it to Grace and Justin. They say they would love to get to work with us and give us 10 grand a month to sponsor the pod, right? That agent, even all they did is answer that email and say, "Oh, that sounds amazing," right? They take 2 grand from that.
Ugh.
That to me doesn't make any sense.
Mhm.
Now, if that agent went out, brought in Spotter themselves, said, "Hey, we have a deal from Spotter because of these relationships that I have. I don't I'll give you 20%." Right? But the issue is it seems like more than not when I've seen creators work with agencies, especially on a exclusive standpoint. Um, so for those listening, the difference between exclusive and non-exclusive is non-exclusive means that you can work with any agency at any time. If they bring you a deal, they take 20%. Exclusive means that you can only work with that one agent or agency. And a lot of the times they take over your inbox. So if anything comes into that inbox, they take whatever percentage that you've already negotiated. So I'm talking specifically about the exclusive relationships in this standpoint. I just don't think it makes a lot of sense. And a lot of creators that I talk to, they actually don't end up bringing in more revenue the next year once they sign with the agent than they did with the agent. So that basically just means they lost 20%, which is
Oh,
wild.
that's sad. Yeah, it makes sense. Yeah. I thought of signing on an agent with design buddies actually, if they could, like, 'cause I feel like I spend a lot of time answering emails, but I also feel like as especially for, like, more, like, yeah, like, less experienced content creators, um, but even myself right now, it's a great practice to be able to negotiate yourself and
Yeah.
negotiating with these companies and doing it yourself and learn the whole process instead of, like, working with an agent, but, yeah, same with you, like, I would only work with an agent if they're, like, actively finding more deals and I would, like, net positive the income I would earn because of them, but all in all, like, recommend, like, trying to outreach or just seeing what messages you get and just try to negotiate it yourself, and, as Justin mentioned in the first video, keep doubling your price. You just something works.
Why not, right? Like, I mean, look, I've got a horror story right now that's actually happening to a creator that I know. He's worked with an agency for the past, I want to say, a year or two. I believe it's on a non-exclusive, but or it might be exclusive actually. And they actually owe him over or like around $50,000 from last year, and they haven't paid him out. He's tried to communicate with them, they ghosted him, but because he signed this agreement, all that money first funnels through the agency before it comes back down to you, right? So again, if you work with someone who is untrustworthy or like relationships die out and those contracts are still being run through that agent or that agency that you're working with, there can be some issues there. My advice is always do your own research, always try to ask for people who work with that direct agent or agency, and always have a lawyer read things through and a lawyer that understands the creator world. So I have a friend that I work with. He's amazing. He's been in the creator world himself. He was a creator in a past life, so he knows the intricacies of how this works. Because a regular lawyer is helpful, is better than nothing. But if you can find someone that understands the creator world, is that's my advice to you. Figure out who that person is.
Yeah, I agree. Having lawyers and accountants that kind of understand the creator world too. Having your
Yeah.
team. So, because it's almost tax season.
No, no, I get it. I get it. And my question to you, because I think again, you have better insight on this world than I do, especially because you are in the SF world. Can you break down from a sort of high level understanding of like how does VC work? Because I don't think a lot of creators even understand what it means if a company comes to you and wants to offer you 100K for 20% of your business. Like, especially from like a creator lens, I think that gets a little wonky, right? Because it's like, oh, if they offer declassified 20 or 100K for 20%, I understand that. But if I was creating from a personal lens as like Justin Win, like, does that mean they own Justin Win? Does that mean they own the holding company? Like, explain that a little bit, at least to the best of your knowledge.
Yeah, so from my experience, there's like different ways people can invest. There's like hedge funds, there's VC funds, but I'll focus on VC because like just how people can invest in the stock market, invest in like crypto. People can also invest in companies on an individual level. This looks like angel investors where they give like an angel check and keep some shares for themselves. So they have equity in the company, which means they own like a percentage of it. VCs, on the other hand, there's like a couple of different types of VCs. In San Francisco, what I've seen the most popular is like traditional like VC funds like Sequoia, A16Z, Slow Ventures, Bain Capital. There's like a lot of different VCs and different VC firms are just like they basically have a bunch of LPs, which are limited partners, which are like super rich people who pour in a lot of their funds, and then they kind of have these VCs like in a VC office, there's like I don't know the exact team build up, but basically these LPs are the ones having all the money, and then it's the VC office and the people who work in the VC's job to allocate where these funds go. And oftentimes these VC firms will have different focuses and stuff, and each VC firm can have like different branches. They can focus on, like energy or like sustainability or like career economy or like media stuff. So the VC fund they have like different theses which they invest in and see what does. Basically what's happening is they're pouring in a bunch of money, they're making a lot of bets, and oftentimes it's like all a numbers game. They're very like just numbers, they don't really care. As long as they have one unicorn, they make basically all their money back. So they're putting in so many bets, so they don't really, in their experience, they have so many portfolio companies they manage, so oftentimes on their website, they'll see, like, have a lot of mentorship, um, have a lot of connections and stuff, um, and oftentimes, like, they're just playing a lot of bets and seeing if it returns an investment. But there's also some VCs that also have, like, for more early stage founders, like first-time founders, they have accelerator programs, which are basically VC funds. Y Combinator is a famous example of one. They take their terms are actually really bad. According to my friends, is like they give you 125K for 7% of your company, which is actually pretty bad, but a lot of people use YC for their branding. Like if you see on LinkedIn, there's a lot of startups like startup name and like YC Winter 25 or something. Um, and they also connect you with a lot of like people. So that's what makes it worth it. Cause some accelerator programs do have a lot of like mentorship and connections that can give value, even if the terms are bad. So the terms really depend on what you're looking for and what the fund is. But there's some VCs that you need to really look at the terms and what they offer and make a decision for yourself because there's like pros and cons and stuff to that as well. But these VCs, at the end of the day, they are expecting like a unicorn from you. And I've seen a lot of friends like kind of burn out or like struggle a lot to make that ROI for that VC. But also
What does a unicorn mean? Let's just say, right? Like what let's say someone comes to you, Grace, right, for Design Buddies, and we'll think of Design Buddies as a media company for this instance, right? And they say, okay, Grace, we'll give you again, you made $1 million last year, let's say in the media space, that's a 5x, right? So you have a $5 million valuation right now. Let's say they gave you 100K for what would that be for like 5% of your company? Let's just call it that, right?
Mhm.
What do like realistically, what would be or what does Design Buddies have to get valued at for that to probably be a win for that VC?
I feel like I never actually seeked VC funding myself, so I never actually, like, asked about this, but I've seen people, like, for example, like, new companies, these VCs kinda expect them to do, like, 100 times, 1,000 times, basically become a billion-dollar business from their investment. Do everything it takes to, like, become a monopoly, and people struggle because of that. Um, I guess I have an example to share, but I feel like I shouldn't share this on the pod. Example near and dear to my heart, but I'm not gonna say situation on the pod, but, like, I could just say that okay, the friend I'm referring to, he took VC funding, and ever since he took VC funding, he hasn't been the same. He was actually one of my good friends before, but after he got VC funding, like, we used to work really closely as, like, a business partner with Design Buddies, but after he took VC funding, his aura became, like, very transactional, trying to squeeze pennies out of me, and then just trying to, like, see me as a means to his business, as seen by his actions and the way he talks to me, it's, like, really transactional and stuff. So, that's actually, like and, like, he's, like, trying to, like, basically we're trying to, like, 100 times his business, but, because I've worked with him so closely and we have so many mutuals, and I've seen how he's changed, his demeanor changed after he got VC funding, that's why it made me so, like, against getting VC funding with Design Buddies because I never wanna be like that. I've always wanna, like, do it for the vibes and, um yeah, but I feel like, again, like, VC is like a tool, like, if you're trying to, like, build something venture scale, like billion-dollar company, multi-billion-dollar company, you're trying to, like, time the market, you need capital right now to beat a monopoly, like, that is a good resource. Other than that, I don't think it is necessary to get VC funding.
Yeah, I think again, especially in the media space, right? Like I would say for a win at a credible win at a VC firm, like you guys probably would have to get to 50 million, if not 100 million plus valuation. And if you look at how many media companies have exited at that level, there's not many. And
Mhm,
I think that's where the issue lies, right? Especially with me when it comes to VC funding for media companies, is a 10 million, $20 million business as a media company, if you're solo owned, is an amazing business. Like you're killing it, right? Like, especially like you, right? If you're able to take Design Buddies, or when you're able to take Design Buddies to $10 million, you are chilling, right? But from a VC standpoint, all because you took that money, 10 million, 20 million on that 100K investment or whatever at a $5 million valuation, you've only turned it into 400, 500K, which
mhm,
from a VC standpoint, like that fund might have tens of millions, if not hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars. That 400K, that's a rounding error for them. Unless you're making 40 million, 50 million, 100 million, you turn that 100K into 40, 50 million, it doesn't move the needle for them. And that's so much more stress for the person running the business. Again, especially at a media company valuation, I think it's just really hard to get that big of a valuation to give a credible return to that VC firm that's investing in you.
yeah, for sure, it's, like, a lot of pressure, but I feel like if people really think their idea is a billion-dollar business, they should go for it if they're willing to, like, work
If that's your goal, go for it.
yeah, like, respect, major respect if you're trying to, like, change society and, like, really focus on your passion, but if your goal is to, like, I don't know, like, let's, like, live life, or not, like, I'm not saying, like, people who work 100 hours a week don't have a life, like, I have a lot of respect for people who work long hours on their passion, I just haven't found that one thing, or if I know of ever gonna find that one thing that I would spend all my life on, but major respect to people who do that stuff because 'cause they're the ones probably leading society. Or, like, making, like, Facebooks or, like, the Teslas or, like, like, those, like, big companies you all, like, heard of these days.
Again, if you're built that way, you're built that way. For me, it's just not me, right? It doesn't seem like it is for you. I would just say again, if you're raising money from a media standpoint, do some research on what companies have exited in the media space. The little research that I've done, There's not many that have big enough exits to make a meaningful difference in whatever VC fund has invested in them.
Mhm. Yeah, for sure. Let's pivot into podcasting. So,
Yeah, go
yeah.
ahead. Did you have any specific questions about
Yeah,
it?
yeah, since Justin, you've been running like 2 podcasts for like and you've done like hundreds of episodes. I'm curious, like on the topic of how podcasters make money, what are the top ways you've seen podcasters succeed in making their podcast a business?
So I think it's interesting what I've seen in the podcast space because let's call it pre 2020, not many big names had podcasts, like in terms of big influencers, big creators, anything like that. Most of the podcasts that were popping off were like the Joe Rogans of the world, who they've just been producing podcasts since like 2010 or whatever it was, right? And so they've just built for the long game and it eventually popped off for them. Then you saw sort of this wave in 2020 where the Logan Pauls of the world, everybody seemed to be launching a podcast. And my thought, and it seemed like the reason for that was a podcasts were really easy to make, right? You set with Mike. The running meme on TikTok is like podcast equipment is too cheap, right? And why are these people talking? But it's very simple to set up essentially. Hopefully, those who are listening don't get that vibe when you and I are on this show. Um, but that was the reason that I think podcast was that next evolution for a lot of these big creators was the setup of it was easy. The second piece of it is if you look at someone like a Logan Paul, a Mr. Beast, or the average YouTube creator, I'm not talking finance creator, but the average YouTube creator, most of their RPMs, which is revenue per thousand views on YouTube, is probably somewhere between two to maybe $6 or $7 if they're really like in a more expensive niche. Now, finance niche, obviously you can kill it and you're making 15, $25 as your RPM. But for most creators, it's that $2 to $6 range, I would say. Podcast RPMs were going for anywhere between, I would say back in 2020, 10 to 30 plus dollars for RPMs. So you could effectively double, if not 5x your RPM by just starting a podcast and trying to get your audience to move over. And so that's where I suspect that's a lot of the reason why a lot of these creators started producing podcasts was like ease of access, but also if you were able to get the same amount of views from your regular content, but just get it as a podcast, you could get massive return on your revenue side.
This revenue
Now,
is coming from like ads or like
yeah, this is all I'm just talking strictly about like the
Mhm.
ads that you could place within a video,
Okay.
so to say.
Mm.
Okay. So that's sort of what we've seen, and we've only seen podcast RPMs go up even higher now. I think a lot of my friends are making 15 to $35 per thousand views, depending on the platform, depending on the brand, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, I see that. I feel like there's a meme, like, everyone's starting a podcast. I mean, like, I also, like, wanna start a podcast. Like, I've been on so many podcasts, and it's, like, really fun, and, reason why I wanna start, I'm, like, excited to join How Creators Make Money is I wanna, like, stay sharp, and I feel like it's a good way to, like, stay sharp in your industry, be able to, like, jam on it each week too.
Yeah, like
Uh
my first show, right? Like we weren't doing a ton of views on it, but when I was in college, that's when I started it. It's called the Get Your Grind Up Show now. But it was like 300 episodes in. It was one of the best networking tools ever. Didn't get a ton of views, but it allowed me to start conversations with people because if I asked you, and I hate when colleges tell you to ask people to pick their brain, like I hate that
I
line.
hate that term so
You know,
much.
it's so
So
bad, but like
crazy.
that's like why do colleges tell you to do this? I don't know. But like nobody wants to get their brain picked. Like that's just a terrible, terrible word, you know what I mean? So what I did was like I just took instead of a 30-minute brain picking meeting, coffee chat, whatever you want to call it, I turned that into an hour-long podcast. So with these people, I was able to a talk longer with them and get more insights from them. But my my response rate from emails out and things of that nature and outreach was a lot higher because people are more likely to be on a show than go and grab coffee because they're like, oh my God, like no one's ever asked me to be on a podcast before. This is so new, so unique. This is so cool. I'll say yes to Justin, who's this 19-year-old kid that I've never even heard of before. But I get to be on a show, and I get to tell all my friends that I'm on a show. And so I think that that is what I use the initial podcast for, is networking. Declassified was initially a podcast. I couldn't get the views on it because there was really no algorithm at the time, and I hadn't figured out short form to podcast conversion. But I figured out short form, and so I turned the podcast into just a short form uh, sort of empire, if you want to call it that now, which is really cool. But with this show, it's all about how can we figure out the short form to long form conversion. We're working on the short stuff and social media, everything like that. And I think so far it's going great. And we're laying down the foundation to do really well. But can't wait to start getting those RPMs for these shows. You know what I mean? That'll be great.
Yeah, I'm really excited. I've been really into, like, hacking the algorithm lately, like, I basically over the past week, I've gotten 6 million views on, like, LinkedIn and Instagram combined.
I know
Maybe
it's
this is a great
amazing.
episode, but I can break down how to go viral on LinkedIn. But yeah, I'm so excited. I'm also, like, trying to figure out short form and what works and stuff too. Do you feel like the future of I've seen, like, Spotify launch, like, video podcasts, and, like, now apparently they're experimenting with, like, I don't know if this is, like, on all the devices yet, but they've like that TikTok style where they have, like, short form clips and then they see for, like, podcast discovery. Where do you see as, like, been doing a podcast for so many years, where do you see it evolving over the next year or so?
I I would love your perspective on it. I'll share mine. Like, I'd never used that TikTok feature in Spotify. I understand why they think that might work. I personally never used it. I don't know anyone that ever used it. But I also don't listen or watch many video podcasts. Most of the time when I'm listening to a podcast, it's just audio. I actually don't remember the last time I listened to a video podcast. But like, what about you? Like, do you use any of those video features or anything like that? Obviously, we produce video for ours for those who are watching. Um, but we actually get more views, or we've gotten more views on our YouTube stuff than our Spotify stuff.
Yeah, I feel like I don't know. I usually don't watch video stuff on podcasts, but I do watch I've seen, like, on my YouTube Shorts, like, clips of podcasts that pop up, like, notable sound bites, and that's actually how I discover new podcasts, is I would just see it on my Shorts. I feel like my algorithm is all, like, business, creator, design stuff, so it just, like, pops off on my feed, but I personally listen to podcasts when I'm, like, running or, like, commuting, usually when I'm not looking at a screen, um so, yeah, I feel like most people listen to podcasts when they're, like, doing something else too, like cleaning and stuff.
Yeah. So like, I again, I think for us, I'm looking at creating the video. The reason that I want to create the video portion of it is so that we can clip it up and play it on social, right? I don't know many people that watch a long form video on or long form podcast on YouTube or anything. But again, we might be the anomaly there because the statistics show that a lot of people are watching podcasts on YouTube. So I don't know. Uh, I wish I had a better
Hey,
answer for that.
if you watch podcasts on YouTube, let us know how we can improve the visual for you, how to make it more engaging. But also sometimes I do listen to podcasts on YouTube. It's really random, like, I still draw a lot, and whenever I draw, I listen to a podcast. So see something I even listen to, like, YouTube videos, actually, when I'm drawing. It's like if I'm on my computer and I'm, like, drawing just next to my computer, I would, like, play a video. Usually it's like, there's, like, Company Man or just, like, Sunny V2. There's, like, a bunch of, like, tech YouTubers that I like about deep dive into business. It's, like, a really well-produced video, but there's so many videos on YouTube, but I feel like on YouTube the expectation I have for these videos is they're really well produced, um, and they're I mean, like, they have a lot of visuals on there, but if I just see something interesting on my feed, like, whether it's on Spotify or YouTube, I just listen to it, like, when I'm drawing, but sometimes I get really distracted, and I just, like, look at the visuals instead of, like, doing my work.
No, I get that. I know Sunny V2, I know Company Man, like those are some great video essay sort of
Yeah, video essays.
channels. Um I love having YouTube Premium. I'm not sure if you have it, but like
I
not
have it
having
too.
ads on anything is amazing. But because I have YouTube Premium, I will I will listen to podcasts via YouTube, but I won't. be watching the video, if that makes sense. So I wonder if a lot of people do that. Again, our show and the shows that I listen to are a little bit more businessy, so that makes a little bit more sense versus like my friend's show. Shout out to Sam and John. They run the OK Storytime podcast. Theirs is very visually engaging. I think we can get there at some point, right? In the future. But theirs is very visually engaging. They have their live podcast, which then they turn into a regular podcast, which then they turn into long form content, which then gets cut into short form content to promote the long form stuff. So they've got it all down. I think that makes sense to watch on YouTube because it's very visually engaging. It's a live stream, things like that, right? Maybe it's just because of the content that we follow. That might be why that we don't listen or watch podcasts.
It makes sense. But I also feel like, I dare say this word. It's an overly used word, but like AI. But I honestly think like a lot of people are really sick and tired of seeing AI generated content out there, especially like on LinkedIn, where just AI talking to each other. They're craving for that human interaction and like getting to know someone deep. And a podcast is a very intimate way to like get to know people like deeply. Like you spend like an hour with them, you get to know them instead of like spewing like AI generated shit out there.
I agree. I agree. I think you can still tell AI stuff right from non AI stuff. Even when I'm watching some YouTube videos, right? I'm like, this is definitely something that they just put together via AI with a AI voiceover, right? That's from what is it? Something 11 Labs or whatever, right? So I think it's interesting because we're in a media space and we can pick that stuff out. I wonder if the average person watching the stuff actually understands if it's AI or not, though. I think that's the true test because I would say we're more forward thinking. We're more kind of like involved in the tech side, or we know the tech stack that some of these AI videos are probably built off of. But like if my mom's watching the video or if my grandparents are watching this video or even my like little cousins who aren't very involved in the tech space, I wonder if they can tell. I don't know, and I think that's where things get a little scary sometimes.
Yeah, my mom, she's like in her 60s. She loves using AI to make so she's a retired professor. Her job right now is she speaks on cruise ships and she uses AI to like write songs about the cruise and they love them. Like I've seen her speak and all of them like singing and dancing with the AI generated songs and it's like, "Oh my god."
But you see what I mean though? Is like again, I think sometimes we have to pull ourselves out of our bubble, right? And I think we all live in different bubbles, so to say, and it's great to always get outside perspective on whatever bubble that you're within. I think it's like, hey, if we showed them this AI page that we know is built off of AI, would they know?
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know. Maybe that's a story we can
Yeah.
die. We can bring in someone that's outside of our bubble and show them a bunch of AI content. Be like, hey, can you tell the difference?
Yeah, let's do it. Oh, also my boyfriend Justin, he was also building something just like kind of indie hacking on something. It's like called Quick Movies, like basically this AI video generator. I think he uses 11 Labs and he was like experimenting on TikTok search insights to see if like what topics are trending. So he done a lot of like European history as well as like Tasmanian crab videos. He like looked creator search insights on TikTok and just like told his AI tool to like make videos about it. And he's got to like viral on these, like, AI with the AI bots thing. So, like, he also, like, gotten clicks to his website. So I feel like a lot of the average TikTokers or, like, a lot of TikTok users, like, can't tell it's AI, or maybe they can tell, they're still, like, clicking into it and engaging with it too.
I mean, if you think about it, like there's literal kids. The joke is they're kids in India. But I mean, a lot of them are probably kids in India that just get a US SIM card. And so on TikTok, it seems like they're posting in the US where I've seen, and I know some people that have gamed the over 60-second algorithm on TikTok, where like if you're over 60 seconds, you have over, I think it's 10,000 followers or 50,000 followers or whatever it is, you get accepted into their creativity program. They just use AI, 11 Labs for the voiceover. They'll throw, whether it's the Reddit stuff where you're reading a Reddit story and you're just jumping around. on Minecraft, or it's Subway Surfer or whatever it may be. They figured out the way to create AI driven content to then slap on top of another AI video. And because that video is over 60 seconds and they're able to crank out two, three, four, five, six videos a day, they're getting millions, if not tens of millions of views a month. And they're able to bring in 500 bucks, 1,000 bucks, 5,000 bucks, $10,000, which again, if you're based in the US, that's a great amount of money. If you're able to do that outside the US, that's amazing, right? And so you've got these kids, and I say kids because they're literally 15, 16, 18 years old that have built these AI pages on TikTok and game that algorithm. Same with shorts as well. To be able to generate just crazy money for them, especially those that are based outside the US.
Wait, what videos are they making? Is it those videos with, like, a Subway Surfer overlay and, like, it's, like, something talking about that? Like, what are those videos they're making?
It could literally be them asking ChatGPT or whatever to, or they've trained ChatGPT to read all the top Reddit posts or whatever, and then create their own Reddit posts, which then it'll create the Reddit post of like, "Am I the asshole?" or like a boyfriend story, girlfriend story, whatever topic that they want. They'll take that, drop it into 11 Labs, pick a voice, take that voiceover, slap it into a transcribing service, have that put out onto the, or you could just throw it into CapCut, right? And CapCut will caption it out on there. And then you slap like the Minecraft video in the background or the Subway Surfer video in the background, whatever it may be. And people watch that stuff. And that stuff gets millions upon millions of views sometimes. And you're, because it's AI, like you can probably pop out 10 videos in an hour or two and you've done your work for the day. And you just run the gambit over and over and over and over again.
Interesting, interesting. So the video is just, like, literally Subway Surfers, but, like, the voice is the
Yeah, it's just a
story.
voice with the, yeah, with the story, and then, like, you've done that. I've seen people AI, or I know people that, like, AI generate the, aesthetically broken glass videos, if you've ever seen that stuff, where it's like,
Oh, yeah, the Pika Labs one where they, like, squish something? Wait, no,
well, no,
these
no,
are
well, there's that, but there's, like, there's literally, it was popping off. I haven't seen it lately, so I don't know if it's still popping off or not, but literally just a glass bottle filled with a, like, a fancy glass bottle filled with a colorful, sometimes not colorful, juice or water, and you roll it down like a staircase that's, like, hard, like a hard staircase or whatever, and then people wanna watch it to the end because 'cause they're like, "When will this bottle break? And when will it shatter and spew all this juice out?" Sometimes it doesn't break, sometimes it does, but, like, all that can be easily AI generated too, if you know the right tools and stuff like that. So there's a lot of ways that these kids are, again, I say kids because a lot of them are kids
yeah.
finessing the system when it comes to short form AI stuff.
Yeah, and India's banned TikTok is banned in India, so they gamed the system.
Yeah, right? Like, all you need technically is, like, a US SIM card. So they buy the US SIM, they buy a US account, because like, you can buy and sell, well, technically, you're not supposed to, but you can buy and sell TikTok TikTok accounts with a uh proper follower count or whatever you need to get into the space. Like, I know people that have done that in the AI, like, Subway Surfer niche. I know people that have done that in the TikTok shop niche. It's fascinating how some of these people are making money.
It's so fascinating, and that's a lot of money in India too, so they're probably gonna be, like, super rich
Oh, yeah,
and living a
like,
good life in
if you're
India.
making 5 grand a month in India, like, you are chill. You're
They're,
living
like,
the
top
life.
100, I don't know, like, top.
Yeah, you're, it's probably similar to making like 500K in the US, right? And not
Yeah.
living in SF, you know? So, and it's insane. But that's the world that we live in. And it's all about figuring out what the game is and how can you play the game to the way that you want to play it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and not have to reinvent the wheel each time, so just see what's working and add your own remix. Don't copy it directly, but just, like, add your own remix to it. It's a game. That's what I've been figuring
Exactly.
out lately. I've been doing a lot of, like, what's been going viral on LinkedIn is actually, like, my street interviews. I ask people, like, what their salary is, as well as, like, I asked, like, this is a bit not safe, I could be not safe for work, but yesterday I interviewed my friends, like, "How big is your data?" Because like, how
I get why that works. You know what I mean? Like, I
Yeah.
understand why that works.
And, like, I interviewed, like, tech bros at a hackathon to, like, show me your best risk, so, like, ask me, like, the best pickup lines, and man, I've gotten some great answers, so it's been popping off on, like, my TikTok, so it's been great,
Hey.
so just trying to figure it out.
Hey,
Yeah.
maybe we need to go to VidCon and just ask creators how much money they make, right? For how creators
Yes!
make
Let's
money.
do
That's
it.
our viral content.
Let's do it
But
on South by too.
oh, we can do it at South by. Yeah, you're right. You're right. We're gonna be at South by. If anyone who's listening, if you're gonna be at South by,
Mhm,
reach out to us on LinkedIn. We'll be there.
mhm.
In March. I'm not sure when Grace will be there, but I'll be there the whole time because I'm based in Austin.
Mhm.
But
Mm.
I know we got to jump soon. Anything else before we end this pod?
I have a couple more minutes actually. I'm just curious, like, kind of want to dive into podcast monetization. Just be like, I've seen like, for example, like with the Spotify partner program, they've like launched something where basically like Spotify creators can make money by like integrating ads in their stuff without like basically like spewing like talking about the ad like mid roll or like during their episode as well. Um, and there's more like until the partner programs are revenue share with all the ads and stuff. Where do you see the future of like podcast monetization? Is it more these like partner programs? Is it more ads, more affiliate links? Like, where do you see the trajectory?
I think it's a little bit of everything, right? Like I think Spotify wants to probably compete with YouTube.
Mhm.
Where if you can like there will be creators that really optimize for affiliate stuff. There will be creators that really optimize for brand deals and things of that nature. I think again, we've already come to figure out that within the first month or so of this podcast, there's so many different ways to make money as a content creator. And I think that just grows more and more as more creators start to post their podcasts on Spotify, right? I think I was looking up their podcast partner like RPMs or whatever, and it's very similar to what you would expect, which is like the $15 to $30 per thousand views. Which again, if you're looking at it compared to YouTube monetization, it's probably a lot higher. Now the question is, can you get the same views on YouTube or on Spotify as you do YouTube? I'm not sure, right? Because there's not much of an algorithm to play in the podcasting world. But maybe Spotify figures that out. Maybe they're able to build an algorithm and grow their podcast thing. And I think if they do, and what I've seen with content creators follow where the money goes. The instant a platform shuts down their creator program, a lot of times creators stop creating on that place.
Very true, very true. I've noticed more creators like kind of stop focus on TikTok because they don't know the long term trajectory of TikTok. And I've seen a lot of creators go on like Instagram and LinkedIn as well. I've seen LinkedIn be more casual, which is fun because I can like hopefully I can like actually shit post. My LinkedIn, I used to shit post a lot on LinkedIn, but then and on Twitter as well. But then I looked at over the weekend, I was just like seeing who's following me. I'm like, oh shit, there's like founders of like companies that sponsor me who follow me. I'm like, I cannot shitpost here anymore. But actually,
Do
the
you
only
do
shitpost.
you
Mhm.
No, go
Go
ahead, go
ahead.
ahead, go ahead.
Oh, the only platform that is safe to shitpost is Facebook now. Just like my
Because
friends,
nobody
but I've
follows
had.
you. Do you think that Spotify monetization has legs?
I think so. I feel like a lot of people love podcasting, like love like listening to podcasts because I feel like after COVID, a lot of people are out and about and like commuting. There's a lot of like downtime. They can listen to something. So I feel like it is growing bigger because it's easy to listen to in their phone, and I feel like everyone's not everyone, but like a lot of people are starting a podcast because, like as you said, like there's tools that make it easy for it to start, and also like companies are pouring. I've seen like companies are pouring less sponsorship money into like TikTok because it's like short form, and it's like hard to like for the audience to build like a more like parasocial or like big connection to the TikToker just because I see them for like 30 seconds. But with the YouTube, Spotify, they're spending like an hour with them and they're really getting to know them. So I feel like the loyalty and like companies, I feel like they're looking like sponsorship companies are looking less in terms of like vanity metrics like views and stuff, but more so into like the quality of the leads, like more like quality over quantity focus. So I do think podcasts are part of like the future of creators making a shit ton of money.
Yeah, I think the loyalty bar goes, right? Like top is Twitch streamers, and then I would say podcasts, and then long form YouTubers, and then short form. That's how I view it in my lens, at least. but we've already seen the rise in Twitch in terms of companies dumping money into Twitch. We've started to see a rise in terms of companies dumping into podcasting, and I think it's only going to continue to grow as I would say the creator economy starts to take more and more dollars away from the from like TV ad revenue and stuff like that. So it'll be interesting. We're gonna be here for the ride. We're gonna be sharing all the different stories, but between all that, figuring out how all these different creators are creating money. But until next time, we'll see you guys.
See ya. Let's hack the algorithm. Peace.
Peace.
I love my gang sign.